Have you ever walked into a luxurious place where even your breathing felt like a disturbance? A place where chandeliers didn't just light the room, but scrutinized your every step. A place where a misplaced glance could make you feel like you didn't belong. Nathan Cole had stepped into such a place, and no one knew he was the one who built it. Nathan stood in the lobby of the Aldervan Hotel, and the feeling was as familiar to him as the scent of oak he had once approved for the interiors. No one knew that every detail, from the blueprints to the rugs, bore his mark. He was known in the industry as the golden hand of hospitality, the founder of an empire. Today, he returned unannounced, without bodyguards, without a luxury car waiting at the door, just a middle-aged man in a plain shirt pulling a modest suitcase. Every sign of power was deliberately left outside. No one recognized him. And that was precisely how he wanted it. The hotel lobby was intentionally quiet. The lighting was subtle. The scent was gentle. But today's silence carried something else, a chill of indifference. He approached the front desk. Behind it sat a young woman with light brown hair, sharp features, and pale pink lipstick. Her name tag read, Alyssa Grant. She was seated legs crossed, holding her phone in one hand, while the other rested loosely on the counter. Her eyes stayed fixed on the screen. Her fingers danced effortlessly across what must have been Instagram or some other app that had her smirking for the past few minutes. Nathan stood in front of her, not too close, not too far, close enough to be seen and heard if anyone cared to look up. But Alyssa didn't move. He cleared his throat, softly but politely. No reaction. He tapped lightly on the marble counter. The soft clack echoed in the quiet lobby. Alyssa let out a dramatic sigh, which conveyed more annoyance than effort. Finally, she looked up. No surprise. No urgency. Her gaze skimmed over Nathan, not even settling. What do you need? Her tone was blunt. No courtesy. No service. I have a reservation, Nathan said calmly. The name is Nathan Cole. She didn't respond. She just turned to the computer and lazily lifted the screen. Her fingers typed a few keys slowly, like it was an obligation. A click sounded. She glanced at the screen, then immediately returned to her phone. Not here, she said. No such name. Nathan tilted his head slightly, voice still even. Are you sure? Sure, she replied without looking up. Older folks mix up hotels all the time. He raised an eyebrow. Would you like to see the confirmation email? She shrugged. System says no, so it's no. Emails can be wrong. Just some thing. Nathan pulled out his phone, scrolled to the confirmation, and showed it to her. She glanced for half a second, then looked away. Well, are you sure you didn't book a different branch? There are a lot of Aldervans. This time, Nathan said nothing. He looked at her. She didn't look back. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a system error. It wasn't an oversight. Alyssa Grant had seen him, judged him, and decided within 5 seconds that he wasn't worth her time. Not flashy, not young, not powerful. Just another average guest. And to Alyssa, such people weren't worth the effort. Nathan had seen her type before. He had trained tougher ones. But this wasn't about one employee's attitude. This was a symptom of something bigger. Something was eating away at the service he had built. Alyssa returned to her phone. No follow-up, no double-checking, not even a let me try again. She had closed the file the moment she saw him. Nathan exhaled quietly. No anger, no scene. But he knew this could not be left alone. And it wasn't going to stop here. Nathan didn't walk away like some guests might have. He didn't pull out his phone to call the customer service line. He didn't raise his voice in the middle of the luxury hotel lobby as if demanding stolen rights. Instead, he remained quiet. He gently set his suitcase aside, scrolled through his phone, and found the reservation confirmation from 4 days ago. There was a code, a name, and a specific branch. There was no possibility of error. He looked back at the front desk. Alyssa was still scrolling through her phone, holding a half-melted iced coffee. "May I ask you to double-check the system?" he said. "I have the reservation code, and I already paid." Alyssa looked up, her eyes showing a hint of annoyance, as if to say, "You're still not giving up." She didn't say anything. Her fingers lazily tapped a few keys. Scroll, scroll. Then she leaned back in her chair as if retreating from her job rather than performing it. "No, still nothing," she said, returning her hand to her phone. "Maybe you booked the wrong branch. Happens all the time." Her tone shifted from a front desk manner to a casual, dismissive way of speaking, as if he was no longer a guest, but just another inconvenience in her long, dragging shift. This time, Nathan didn't respond. He nodded, picked up his suitcase, and walked away. But not out of the hotel. He headed toward a quiet hallway that few people noticed, where security cameras sat high on the ceiling like they were just for decoration, and where he could reach into his inner coat pocket and take out a second phone. This phone wasn't for calls. It had no social media apps, no personal contacts. It held just one app, the internal management system of Colin Royce. An access level is granted to only 4 people in the entire organization, and Nathan, of course, was at the top of that list. It took less than 10 seconds to log in. With just a few taps, the entire reservation database for the Aldervan Hotel loaded every name, every code, every timestamp. He typed Nathan Cole. The information appeared almost instantly. Reservation confirmed. Payment completed. Status canceled. Canceled by Alyssa Grant. 16:02, which was exactly 15 minutes before he walked into the lobby. Nathan stood silently, not surprised, just confirming what he had already sensed from her first glance. It wasn't a system glitch. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. She saw him, judged him, and hit cancel. No reason, no warning, no report. Simply because she could. Nathan didn't act immediately. He sat in one of the leather lounge chairs, placed his laptop on his lap, connected to the internal network, and opened the complaints report section. From where he sat, he could still see Alyssa at the front desk, her eyes glued to her phone like nothing had happened. Unaware that the man she had just pushed out of the system was the person who owned all of it. Nathan scrolled through the complaints from the last 3 months. Alyssa Grant's name appeared more than any other employee in the region. Each entry told a small story. Front desk staff had rude attitude, refused to assist foreign guest. Guest denied check-in despite confirmed reservation, no clear reason. Disabled guest assigned to a high floor, no support provided. Reservation canceled with no explanation, just said, "System error." Each complaint was a crack in the marble flooring Nathan had once chosen himself. He closed the laptop. He began to understand that this wasn't just a bad employee. This was a leak in the system. And worse, no one was being held accountable. A front desk employee responsible for that many complaints shouldn't still wear a Colin Royce uniform. But she was still there. I'm still scrolling and still smirking. The only question left, why? And Nathan strongly felt the answer wouldn't come from the girl behind the counter, but from the manager's office on the second floor. Nathan didn't return to the front desk right away. Instead, He turned into a side hallway behind the bar area. This corridor led to the service elevator management, and senior staff used a passage most guests never even knew existed. But he knew. He had drawn it into the original blueprints. The elevator took him to the second floor, the administrative level. There are no public cameras, no guests, just employees and managers and carefully stored files. He wasn't planning to storm in like a judge from above. Not yet. But he needed more data. The manager's office sat at the end of the hallway. A small brass plaque on the door read, Brian Elkins, General Manager. Nathan stopped in front of the door. He didn't knock. He didn't go in. He just looked. He remembered Brian clearly. 41 years old, joined Cole and Royce nearly 7 years ago, started as a guest services manager, and once maintained customer ratings above 4.8 for 3 consecutive quarters. Known for being calm, diplomatic, and prioritizing stability above all. But sometimes, stability was just another name for avoidance. Nathan opened his laptop again, accessing the internal employee performance system. Alyssa Grant, front desk. I joined in March of last year. Initial supervisor, Brian Elkins. Final approval, after internship, Brian Elkins, who removed 2 internal warnings about her attitude in her first month. Brian Elkins. He scrolled down to the internal manager's comments. A standout message in the regional management chat from 3 months ago, written by Brian. Alyssa has potential. She needs to be given a chance to grow. Nathan slid his finger and opened the hidden reports only visible with high-level clearance. Something odd emerged. Several serious complaints from this branch had no resolution notes. Status received. Assigned to Brian, but no follow-up. Then he spotted another detail. Brian had not been present at the hotel in each instance when a complaint had been filed in the past 3 months. Reason: on business travel. But no official travel reports had been filed with headquarters. Nathan's eyes went cold. He had seen this pattern before. A mid-level manager entangled in a questionable relationship with a junior employee. A form of soft protection that no one names but everyone senses. And when that relationship is used to cover up misconduct, not once, but repeatedly, it's no longer just an internal matter. It becomes a threat to the entire brand. The question was no longer, did Alyssa do something wrong? It was, how far has Brian gone to protect her? Nathan had seen enough. He returned and turned into a side hallway with a few staff lounge chairs. No one was there. Quiet enough to work. He accessed the deepest system logs for the Aldervan with a few quick taps. He typed the keyword Alyssa Grant. Data loaded instantly, voluminous and detailed. Over 30 manual reservation cancellations in the past 90 days. Many have no reason for this, and no notifications have been sent to related departments. Nathan scrolled further. Some stood out. Bookings are canceled just 5 to 10 minutes before guest arrival. Some guests were reassigned to lower-tier rooms without any explanation. Next, he searched Brian Elkins. His profile opened, and the pieces began to fit like the last pieces of a broken puzzle falling into place. Brian had directly altered complaint statuses, changing them from pending to resolved with no notes attached. Some complaints had been removed from the system entirely, a move only managers could execute. Brian had done so at least 5 times. Nathan swiped one last time. A complaint from 3 weeks earlier was that a female Asian guest had been denied check-in. Brian had marked it as insufficient grounds to proceed. No written statement, no verification. Nathan stared at the screen. A cold feeling crept down his spine, not because it shocked him, but because it was all too familiar. Minor violations were ignored, accumulating into a system failure, turning a luxury hotel into a silent box of injustice. He closed the screen. He needed nothing more. Everything he needed was there, clear evidence from raw data to a manipulated system. He stood up and walked out of the hallway. His expression was calm. His pace is steady. But each step drew the circle tighter. Down in the lobby, Alyssa was still smiling at her phone. Upstairs, Brian sat in his office, unaware that his bent past was now sharpening into a blade. Nathan adjusted his shirt cuff. The party's over, he thought. Time to turn on the lights. Hey, 16:30. The hotel lobby was getting busier. Soft jazz played in the background. Front desk staff rotated shifts, and guests began arriving after check-in hours. Everything looked like a typical day, except for one thing. An email had just been sent to all staff via the internal system containing only one line. All personnel currently present at Aldervan, including management, front desk, and guest services, please gather in the lobby at 4:45 p.m. Mandatory. Headquarters. No subject, no explanation. Alyssa saw the message blinked and slightly furrowed her brow. She glanced around, then let out a dry laugh. Another surprise meeting. She thought, shrugged, and looked back at her phone. But something kept her from relaxing completely. A faint chill ran down her spine. Not because of the content, but because of the timing. And the way the email was sent, bypassing management directly from headquarters. 16:48. Brian appeared from the elevator. The collar of his shirt was damp with sweat. His eyes scanned the lobby and paused briefly when they met Alyssa's. They didn't speak, but even that brief frown from him made Alyssa feel breathless. 16:50. Nearly all staff were now gathered in the lobby, and then Nathan appeared. He stepped in from the hallway calmly, empty-handed, and face expressionless. But something in his eyes made the entire room seem to sink. Alyssa looked at him. Her eyes lingered longer than usual, not because she recognized who he was, but because something felt wrong. Nathan walked to the center of the lobby. No microphone, no speaker. He stood there like the center of gravity in the room. Good afternoon. All sound stopped. I know most of you don't know who I am. That was intentional. But it's also the reason we're here. Alyssa blinked. Her hand gripped her phone tighter. A strange feeling spread down her wrist. In the past 3 months, this branch has received more than 20 serious complaints. Discrimination, unexplained reservation cancellations, disrespectful attitude toward guests. And the worst part, every one of them was buried. At this point, Alyssa started finding it hard to swallow. She glanced at Brian. He was staring at the floor. No help. Nathan pulled a file from his inner pocket. He placed it on the front desk. A soft thump, but enough to make Alyssa's heart drop into her stomach. I don't need to investigate further, because this morning I was a victim of this system. Alyssa stood still. She began to understand. Her lips pressed tightly, her hands were shaking. No way. I was denied a reservation and dismissed and removed from the system. And no one realized I was the one who built this place. Her entire body froze. Damn it, it was him. She looked at his face again. That morning, just an old, unimpressive guest. She hadn't expected. Nathan locked eyes with her. Alyssa Grant, you canceled over 30 reservations in the last 3 months. No reports, no reasons. You rejected guests simply because you didn't like how they looked. You also canceled my reservation 15 minutes before I walked into the hotel. She opened her mouth, No sound came out. Her throat was dry like sand. Her heart pounded wildly. Her hands trembled uncontrollably. Nathan turned to Brian. His gaze is still cold as steel. And Brian Elkins, you covered all of it. You erased complaints, cleared reports, used your managerial authority to blind the system. Brian tried to stammer something, but Nathan didn't give him the chance. You're not capable of anything anymore. He pulled an envelope from his pocket and handed it directly to Brian. Termination notice. Effective immediately. Sign it. Brian turned pale. He accepted the envelope like a death sentence. Nathan turned to Alyssa. This time, her eyes no longer held defiance. Only one thing remained: raw fear. Her face turned ghostly pale, as if every layer of makeup had lost its effect. You no longer work here, and you will never work at any Cole and Royce branch again. She stood there. No argument. No tears. I just quietly collapsed inside. People remember it as a kind of failure for life, not because someone shouted at them, but because silence delivered the final blow. Nathan said nothing more. He turned and walked away. No applause, no explanations. Just the lobby holding its breath and a lesson that would haunt long after he left. The elevator doors closed, cutting Nathan from the silent stairs behind him. He didn't sigh. He didn't slump his shoulders. He didn't slow his step. He stood, straight hands in his pockets, eyes fixed on the numbers, rising floor by floor. Slow, steady, like a cold moment of silence for what had just collapsed. Floor 23, the executive operations level. It's not a guest floor. This room was only unlocked when the highest level leadership was present. Fingerprint scanner, dual layer passcode, and a dedicated security system. The door opened. A faint scent of aged oak drifted out, the very kind he had once chosen himself. The ceiling lights turned on automatically, not too bright, just enough to illuminate the neatly organized space. Nathan stepped in, locked the door behind him, set his laptop on the table. No coffee, no alcohol, no music. Just him and a long list of matters to resolve. The internal dashboard came to life on the screen, displaying complete data, employee list shift schedules, guest feedback cancellation rates, and system logs. All of it had been silent for too long. He typed a few commands. Request a full personnel review at the Aldervan branch. Priority on departments connected to guest complaints. Temporarily suspend new guest bookings for 48 hours. Cancel all scheduled interviews and hiring. Set the hotel status to operational adjustment. All guests who filed complaints in the past 3 months issue full refunds. Add a complimentary stay for their next visit. Upgrade membership to VIP Gold. The final command he typed more slowly. Alyssa Grant, permanently blocked. Not eligible for rehire under any form. All branches. Outside, people might think he was just an angry CEO disciplining staff. But this wasn't about a front desk clerk or a weak manager. This was about the core value he had built from nothing. Service must be given equally to everyone. No second-class guests. No mood-based attitude. No one behind the counter should ever believe they have the right to decide who deserves respect. Nathan leaned back slightly in his chair and pulled out his phone. The screen showed a name: Julian Tran, Regional Operations Director. He called and said, "Julian, it's me. Aldervan will shut down operations for 3 days. Send in a team to conduct an internal audit. Bring in a manager from Miami to replace the current one. And this time, find someone with a backbone, not someone who wants to stay comfortable." On the other end, there was only one reply: understood. The call ended. The room fell silent again, but Nathan knew that every weak link in the system would be brought into the light in a few hours. And when Aldervan reopened its doors to guests, it would no longer be a quiet hotel stifled by indifference. It would finally be what he once envisioned when he first sketched the model at his desk. A place where everyone, every skin tone, every hairstyle, every voice is welcomed equally. The story of Nathan Cole isn't just a dramatic twist. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of respect and accountability in any system, whether it's a global corporation or a front desk. What struck me most was how he didn't raise his voice or demand attention for his ego, but acted to protect the values he had built from the ground up, that everyone deserves to be treated with fairness and dignity. We live in a world where power is often mistaken for control, and service is sometimes used as an excuse to serve selectively based on mood or appearance. But as Nathan showed, decency isn't about status, it's about the choices we make every day. If this story made you feel something, drop a comment below. What do you think about how Nathan handled it? Have you ever experienced something similar? Share your thoughts. Let's learn from each other and reflect on how we treat others, especially when no one is watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next story where even the smallest choices can bring the truth to light.